professional school, and the lessons I learned certainly didn't teach me everything I needed to know on my first day as a design assistant, but it did teach me how to learn, how to be curious, and how to effectively explore congruent concepts so I could take on a profession in a career that I love. And I wonder what each of you might say if somebody asked you that. Is fashion school still worth the money? And I think I'll just start with Rachel, like we did with the introductions, because I just have you guys lined up there on my screen. So yeah, what would you guys say if somebody said, is fashion school still worth the money?
I would say absolutely yes. And I think that's because I still use things every day in my work that I learned at Columbia, not necessarily even, both related to fashion and just general, business skills. But I reflect a lot on my time at Columbia and the small classes and just the incredible talent pool that is the faculty in the fashion program is, in my book, worth every penny.
Very cool. Yeah, so if somebody said to you, I can learn all this stuff online on YouTube, like it sounds like the benefits of having that that intimate relationship with the school and with the professors allowed you to really grow and still grow.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask questions, on a whim in a YouTube.
Right.
Maybe you can, I don't know.
Elon, what would you say to somebody? You probably still get those questions.
Yeah, I do. I would say absolutely. Not only the connections that you make with teachers, but the connections that you make with other peers too. It's just beneficial overall. I've ran into a ton of people from Columbia and we're like, you went to Columbia, I went to Columbia, let's work together on this project. So even that has been amazing. But for me, jumping right into Target, I would say Columbia was definitely helpful with my vocabulary. I would have been completely lost if I didn't go to Columbia and study fashion beforehand. No, you cannot learn through YouTube because YouTube gets boring after a few hours and fashion school doesn't. So I'm just going to put that out there now.
That's great to hear. I love what you said about the networking too. It's not just about the experience, it's about the continued networking that you have open to you. I mean, my LinkedIn is still like flooded with all the people I went to school with, and then all the people that I've met along the way that have that same background, like you say. Delvin, what would you say if somebody asked you, is fashion, is it worth it? Is it worth exploring an education, a 4-year degree? It's a big commitment financially and with your time.
I would definitely say that you do need college. Definitely. You can't go into even an apprenticeship or an internship being completely, out of the know. So especially when it comes to construction, you need to have that foundation which school provides. They don't teach you everything because a large part of it is practice, repetition, and experimenting. So I would definitely vouch for the school portion. But paired with that, you must have an internship, apprenticeship, and get out to get the real world experience that the classroom does not provide.
That's so great. That's such an important topic, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about that in a little bit. So I kind of want to jump into a couple questions with Elon. She's got a super busy schedule and is an on-demand. So in case she needs to get pulled away, I'm going to start with you first. Okay. And it's kind of all about the idea of a career versus a job. And I was recently listening to a podcast with a poet and educator, Roxane Gay, who I was just introduced to, and she has amazing work. And you can find her online. It's Roxane, Roxane Gay, and I'll type it in the notes if you're interested. She approaches very diverse ideas about who we are, but she's also an educator and she's helping her students navigate the world. And she talks about the importance of pursuing your career rather than just taking a job. So as you recently joined the Target executive team, did you seek out that position? And were you able to use any resources at Columbia that are exclusively available to students?
Definitely. During my job search, I actually went to the Career Center and I worked with a woman named Jennifer Helpin, who was super helpful. We kind of researched companies together, companies that we thought fit my values. I believe in diversity and inclusion for all. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that about me, especially on this chat, since I'm familiar with most of you. We sat down and Target just stood out instantly. It was just a place I would love to call my home. So then we dug even deeper. So what do we need to get to Target? So she helped me find connections with internships. She connected me to a nonprofit. There I worked for Chance the Rapper, actually, and I taught young women of color confidence, and it was the most amazing, rewarding experience that I've ever done. And it was just amazing to have as an internship as well. And even past that, Jennifer, we went back and forth with my cover letter, my resume, my website, building on my LinkedIn connections. Like, the opportunities with Jennifer were definitely endless. So shout out to Jennifer. In addition to that, I would also say just the classes that I took, I made sure that I tailored my schedule to what I actually wanted to learn. I'm so sorry. Hello. That's okay. I tailored my schedule to what I actually wanted to learn. And with that, I actually had help with the advisor. So I didn't use one specific advisor. I kind of jumped around to all advisors and got the opportunity to learn everyone and just told them what I honestly wanted to do. And they helped me 100%. They were like, okay, this is what you need to sign up for. This is the programs that you need to take. The Columbia app, there's a Columbia app. What is the app called? Columbia Shy app. Basically, it's a place where you can network with other students. From there, I actually created my entire website portfolio. I just connected with students nonstop all day, and we just made projects to add on to our own portfolios, and then also projects that I pitched to Target. So yeah, absolutely. The resources are endless at Columbia, especially the study abroad programs. I know we're doing Zoom courses right now, but there are still semester in LA and different resources that I definitely will recommend. I noticed because of my study abroad experience that brought up a lot to talk about during interviews. So that's very helpful. So yeah, the resources were endless, and I'm just glad I got the opportunity to use them.
That's great. I mean, you really kind of talk about how once you kind of get into college, you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to constantly know, like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? And what do I want to get out of this? And I think it's so amazing that you pursued that career with Target that's really aligned with what you believe in. And it's a place where you can continue to practice your values and look into ways of exploring, the statements that you want to make.
For sure.
That's really great. So during some of our preliminary conversations on LinkedIn, you mentioned you chose Columbia because of its position on diversity. You were in the thick of it in spring 2020 semester when COVID came down and when we were all dealing with navigating diversity, equity, and racism. We had the atrocities of the George Floyd murder, and unfortunately we continue to see that the world just isn't ready to come together on a lot of things, and terrible things are still happening. I just wonder, I think a lot of students have a lot of these same feelings and a lot of energy around this. And I wonder what your advice would be to current students as they navigate their positions on these issues and try to find their voices and a group of people to connect with while they're at Columbia.
Yeah, I would say for people of color, we live diversity every single day. It's not something that just happened and kind of came and went. It's something that we live and fight for on a daily basis, whether we want to or not. I would say the biggest advice that I can give, especially right now during this time, is that it's okay to not be okay. I know a lot of times people expect people of color in general to just be that voice. it's okay to not want to be the voice. It's okay to step back. It's okay to use those Columbia counseling resources and just step out for a little while and just say, hey, I need a break. I'm not up for diversity topics for today. I would say come together as one, because in the end, we're all one team. This is one fashion program, and I'm pretty sure we're all striving for the same goal, especially at Columbia. So treat others with the same way you want to be treated, honestly. If you're having a bad day, would you want someone to go and nudge at, what's making your day bad? No. Talk about things, see what's on people's minds. I mean, honestly, I would say read books on how to become a better ally. And this is for everyone. There are great books on that. And there's a class called Making and Unmaking Whiteness that I took. It was one of the best classes of my life. I definitely highly recommend that for anyone who's trying to find more information on how to become a great ally. So that can be for sure.
I love that. I mean, becoming an ally and realizing that we're all one, it's so easy to kind of construe some people's actions and think that they're negative. And you just kind of step back and realize we're all human. We're all one person. We all deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be safe.
For sure. And I would definitely say, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just, go ahead. I'll
I would definitely say to stand up for what you believe in. There's going to be times where obviously we don't believe in the same things, but if there's something that you deeply believe in and you honestly think it will make the world better, fight for it, because there's people who's going to fight for it with you. So if you feel like you're on this journey alone, trust me, you are not on this journey alone. This is actually just the beginning of our very long journey.
Yeah, that is so true. I was going to say something, but I forgot.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It wasn't that. It was just kind of going off of, your allies. Oh, and I wanted to bring up, I loved what you said, that if you don't feel like you want to say something right now, don't feel like you have to, right?
Yes.
Like if you just kind of want to step back and, kind of think about yourself and what you need, you can't bring something to the table if you're not healthy first. So I love that. I love that you said that. So the next question I have is, I want to kind of turn it over to Delvin for a little bit. And congratulations on starting your atelier. I love looking through your website and reading your stories, and it's really great. And I love your pieces. And I just started following you on Instagram, which is real time and what you're doing. And it's so great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, was your goal to always start your own line and have the atelier? And how did your studies at Columbia help you prepare for where you are and what you're doing right now?
So since day one, I remember in Garment Construction 1, it was my first class in 2013, and I had Jerry Speck as a professor, and he went around and asked everyone, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, I want to be a couture designer and make these fabulous gowns. And he's like, real world, if you want to truly be a couture designer, you have to drop everything, go to Paris, and I hope your parents got deep pockets. But it was, it was a little tough, but it stuck with me because it was the reality of the situation. Snatched me down, took me out of the clouds, and grounded me. And, there's a lot of ideas of what students or beginners may think fashion is in the end, aside from all the hard work, the long nights, working endlessly, bleeding fingers from hand sewing all day. So it's like, that was a great start to grasp the reality of what I actually wanted to do. But since day one, I always wanted to have my own company. I don't really like working for people. So, I would spend 3 to 9 months at a 3 to 9 months at a job. My experience at Columbia has helped me from everything. I asked every professor every question I could think of, because as I tried to start my own company the first time, which was like my second year of college, and I didn't know what I was doing. And once I realized it, I found out, I need to ask this question. I need to know how to do patterns. I need to know the production part, sourcing materials, cutting overhead costs and things like that. So every class, every step, every business class, everything fashion related, from concept development to illustration, learning how to actually draw, communicate my illustrations to another person, to clients, the people that don't, sometimes clients don't have the artistic vision, so they can't really articulate an illustration until they see it in real life. So everything helped me. I couldn't say that anything didn't. Along with the professors actually being in the field or retired, they gave you the real world knowledge, connections, and if they had a resource they can lend to you to help you out, that was also lended to me as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, like when we all kind of started in our studies and our college studies, we had these very fantastical ideas about what the industry was. And it is kind of hard to hear, and you know, some people will remind you like, oh, well, you can't do that if you're doing this, or there's, you know, you've got to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But I think you can also leave yourself a lot of room and your studies to kind of evolve too. I know when I started, I was like, I'm going to be a wedding dress designer and I'm going to make, you know, custom wedding dresses. And then I realized, I'm like, oh my God, that is not the right path for me. You know, for a lot of reasons, although I still enjoy beautiful, making beautiful pieces for people. And, you know, that kind of leads me into, you know, you do these couture pieces. And I wanted to ask you while you were talking, do you kind of think of them as a collaboration when you're working with your clients? You're talking about sketching, and it's a very intimate relationship when you're making clothes for somebody to wear on their body and they're putting themselves out there. How do you navigate that with the personalities that you work with?
So I use my experience in the years that I've worked in retail. So one thing I learned, customer where they're at. So you have two types of customers. You have one that completely give you full creative control. I want you to design something for me. You decide what's best. You're the designer. Tell me what I will look good in. Tell me the color, the shape, the silhouette, all those things. And then you have the customer where they have an idea. They have pictures of inspiration. Well, I like these. I like the neckline on this. I like the sleeves here. I like how this fits. I like this fabric. Let's come up with something combining all of these elements. Or you have, you know, an exact picture of exactly what they want, and they're like, okay, I want this dress. I then have the client, I collaborate at that point with the client to help them make that garment their own, because we're not gonna make it do. It's just not something I'm gonna do. So we're gonna manipulate this design and develop it and make it yours, so that, you know, you feel a more like a deeper connection with it, especially when it comes to special occasion gowns such as weddings and proms. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great that retail, I can totally see the lineage between the retail experience and working with the customers now. That's a really great thing to kind of have under your belt. So kind of going on to the next kind of topic I wanted to ask you about is that, you know, on your website, you kind of share about how, you know, you've gotten to where you are with your atelier and your business. And I saw that, I don't know if I read it correctly, but I think I read that after you graduated, you went on to internships to further understand tailoring, corsetry, and beading. So that's always been like a big part of the careers of European designers. And I think, you know, a lot of the schools have tried to push that in the schools here in the States. I just wanted to hear you kind of talk about the value that added to your experience as a working designer now.
So starting off as a new designer, you have to build your credibility. You know, if you're selling designer price point pieces, then and you don't have a name for yourself, the first thing that a customer or someone viewing your products will say, well, why does this cost so much? And it's behind the labor that goes into it. The difference between a bridge price garment and designer piece, even couture pieces, is the labor, the materials that goes into producing that specific item. So having that knowledge, and I'm very old school when it comes to fashion, so I take route of, you know, constructing garments. And I take pride in, you know, the authenticity of it all, instead of just trying to snatch something out of someone's pockets. Give them an item that can stand the test of time, more than 5 washes. They can pull out the closet 10 years from now and it's still in great condition because the material lasts and is of great quality and the construction is amazing. So having that at the foundation of everything is, it's my world. And the value behind that experience is, I can't put a price on it, because it has helped me, you know, validate everything that I'm doing. And then when it comes to the selling key points, you know, helping a customer understand that may not be well versed in fashion and price points and things like that, help them understand the difference between plastic buttons and glass buttons, polyester, silk and poly blends, how to care for fabrications, why to use an Italian wool suiting versus, you know, a poly wool blend, using stretch fabrics versus non-stretch, and then the construction of everything, the corsetry, and the difference between an understructure and a corset, and so on and so forth. So it's priceless, in my opinion.
That's awesome. What would you, if you could go learn from somebody right now, what would be like your kind of icing on the cake?
I would break my neck to be with Sarah Burton right now.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. So I wanted to kind of in the notes that I typed up, I made a little typo here, but I wanted to ask Elon and Rachel about how they, you know, if they did internships in their school during your studies, and what kind of value you saw in that. And I think I had put in the notes, I think we had already determined that that cannot replace your education. It's kind of an extension of what you get in the classroom. So I think Elon's gone back to work. So Rachel, could you tell us a little bit about your feelings on internships and apprenticeships?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So absolutely in no way can an internship, you know, or apprenticeship replace what you learn in college. But it is an essential, you know, piece to the puzzle of learning. And I learned a lot of really great business skills at Columbia, along with things, you know, like fashion history, textile science, runway production, that were all really exciting and stuff. But the thing that was really cool about the internship program at Columbia was that it didn't necessarily have to relate directly to your major, as long as it had a management piece to it, at least for the program that I was in, which was retail management and merchandising and marketing. And so I love fashion, but my real passion is horseback riding. And for many, many years, I was a camper at a summer camp in Wisconsin, an overnight camp. And so I took the opportunity to be the horsemanship director for 10 weeks the summer before my senior year. And there I was responsible for every day, 50 kids, 20 high schoolers, and a herd of 60 horses for 10 weeks. And you better believe I learned some valuable leadership skills there: team building, motivation, mentoring, delegation, and all of those things I apply to my job now as a regional manager at YKK. And I was working retail as well when I was in school. So it was nice to kind of take a step away from like all things fashion and do something that I was really passionate about, but I knew I could apply back to school into a career later on.
That's so cool. I mean, all of our experiences help shape us. And it's like we were talking about earlier, I mean, sometimes you don't always know what you're going to get out of an experience, but if you can, as you become older and wiser and you have experiences that maybe you don't like, or you have bad days, you just have to kind of remember, like, okay, I'm getting this out of it. This is for me, and this is what I'm going to take out of this. Yeah, because barn studies And business studies are strangely similar in working with all of those variables. That's great. And so Rachel and I met Rachel like about a year ago with the last company I was working for. I relied so much on you and your team's expertise while putting together product development tech packs for intricate active sportswear that had very specific zipper codes and such. I know I didn't appreciate the amount of work that kind of went into identifying the right zipper and how complicated and essential and logistical, having manufacturing all over, we were manufacturing all over the world, how logistical that industry is. So you've been with them for about 9 years now, and you're working with a true global player in the fashion industry. How did you start your job at YKK? What brought you to them, and what has kept you there?
Great question. So this is kind of a funny story. About 10 years ago, I was working retail, and I had just graduated, and I worked retail for about a year after graduation. And I was super frustrated because I had posted my resume everywhere and anywhere. And I was working at the UGG store in Chicago, and I was trying to move up within UGG. I wasn't sure like if I wanted to leave the Chicago area. I knew I could find something if I went to New York or to LA, but I didn't really want to do a big move yet. And so I remember like being on a break on the phone with my dad and was in near tears because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like have enough money to pay my rent this month. And then a phone call came through and I was like, I'll call you back, Dad. And it was the senior HR director for YKK. And he had come across my resume on monster.com. I don't even know if people still use Monster. And he was impressed by my retail experience. So, you know, Delvin had mentioned the value of working retail and the customer service aspect of that, and how, and, you know, that's so important in my job too, because, you know, before I was in a management position, I was an account manager for the last 8.5 years. And I was responsible for a book of accounts, you know, in a territory, and I'd have to travel and I'd have to show new product and help them out with all sorts of, you know, issues that might come up and problem solve for them. And a lot of that is customer service oriented, you know, relationship building. Yeah, so that's how I came across that. YKK has been incredibly good to me. I have had some wonderful role models in the last 9 years that I've been with the company. On the leadership team, they've provided me tons of opportunities to grow. They've trusted me to make decisions and have supported and guided me if I didn't make the right decision. You know, just like 3 years, 2.5 years into the company, I had the opportunity to travel internationally. And since then, I've been to Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, Korea, Germany, Japan several times, which is really exciting. I've seen garment factories and, you know, how product is mass produced, which is really interesting. I've made a lot of lifelong friends. I call it my YKK family. And I met my husband. So, yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's working for those big companies can present you with so many opportunities. It's something that I never even really thought of. And I bet a lot of our students, you know, don't think, oh, you know, what if I went and worked for YKK, or what if I went and worked for an inner lining company or a fabric company? And I think all of those opportunities can be just as fulfilling.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, when I graduated, I was like kind of dead set on being like a brand rep, or like working as a buyer or something, or in a showroom. And I never really gave much thought to working on the material side of things in the pre-production realm. So it kind of caught me off guard a little bit when YKK reached out to me. But it's given me an opportunity to work with tons of different brands and tons of different industries. So I get to kind of dip my toe in a little bit of everything, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's true. You're working with everybody from like, I mean, at the company I worked at, we did equestrian, workwear, hiking gear, private label stuff. So even our portfolio is really diverse. So you must have a really diverse group that you're working with and identifying their needs.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So the next question I kind of want to ask you is, you kind of talked about how you've reached success and to where you are now after your graduation from the fashion studies program. And I just wonder, is there anything like in hindsight that you would have wished you did differently? I think we all kind of, 2020 is always a perfect vision. On reflection, I kind of messed up that statement, but looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, for sure. I all the time wish that I had taken part of one of the study abroad programs or like J-term or like semester in LA. I don't know why I never did any of that stuff. I had a friend who did the trip to Paris, and she just raved about it. And I'm like, God, man, like, why didn't I do that? That and like joining extracurricular clubs and activities and groups that are associated with the department to network. Elon mentioned that, networking not just with, faculty and whatnot, but with your peers. I still keep in touch with a lot of my fellow students from when I was in the program who are working in the industry now.
Oh, that's really great about the studying abroad and taking advantage of some of those other programs. Like, I know you get caught up as a student, especially if you're a part-time student and you're working at the same time and you're just trying to muscle through it. But Columbia, being that it's a college and not just, an industry-specific school, there's a ton of other stuff out there that you can get your feet wet in. And you don't have to, if you get in one thing and you don't like it, you can leave it and move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, both Delvin and Rachel, who are still on, I think a lot of us are now more than ever thinking about how we can impact the world we live in and make it a better place, or at least how our actions can be intentional. And I wonder if you could tell us, what opportunities do you have in your work, in your careers, that make you feel good about the path you're on?
Sorry.
Like, oh, that's okay. Maybe Delvin could go first and kind of tell us, like, what do you, as you think about everything that's kind of going on in the world, what is it that makes you feel good about, having your atelier and where you're kind of positioning that for the future?
I will say that the part that gives me a lot of relief is I don't have to necessarily consult with someone to make a decision. So I have a platform where I can express my views, or from an artistic perspective, how I view everything that's going on, or expressing what's everyone may be feeling or could possibly be feeling in this current time, in a way that can distract you and feel a little bit more normal, instead of all the anxiety and the stress and the drama that's going on. So just taking a second to look at something that's beautiful, hopefully, and with a message behind it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, being able to be your own boss is a true blessing, and gives you the opportunity to carve your path, that's really great. That's a great freedom to have. Rachel, what would you say, you know, that makes you feel really good about your career and where you're at, what YKK is doing?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few things. You know, I mentioned that I feel that I work for a really good company and I feel really well taken care of. I mean, I'm only 33 and I'm already in a leadership position in a company that's in, 73 countries around the world. So I'm pretty, proud of myself for that, but also they've given me a lot of those opportunities because I put in the work, I showed up, I asked for it. So not only that, but YKK itself, we've got a lot of really cool and exciting projects and goals going on. I recently have taken on leading our newly developed virtual product promotion team. And so that's kind of centered around brainstorming tools and processes and products that can help our account managers be more efficient in promoting product virtually to clients, because this is exactly how we're meeting with all of our customers right now. And Palessa will know, when I used to come and meet with you guys in California, I'd come with a big bag full of samples and all this fun stuff. And so we're trying to figure out how to recreate that experience virtually. Not only that, but YKK has a ton of really great sustainability goals that are really energizing. I'm very passionate about sustainability myself, and these goals touch all aspects of our business, from waste and chemical reduction in manufacturing to utilization of recycled materials in nearly all of our products almost. And in time, a commitment to become carbon neutral, which is really, really exciting and inspiring. So yeah, it just feels really good to work for a company whose goals align with, my personal goals, and, who's done a really good job supporting me and my teammates too.
That's awesome. It sounds like both of you have these positions that you're continuing to grow in. And so if you're continuing to grow and become, more than what you were before, that's always going to be rewarding. So I love that you guys have found that, and we should all look for that in what we're doing, that we can continue to grow. Well, I wanted to, we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, and I wanted to first find out from the students if they have any questions. We have a little chat box on this side. You can see it at the bottom. And if you wanted to ask any questions for Rachel and Delvin that they could answer right now on our call. And then
Please.
maybe you could also tell us, if you don't have a question quite yet, if you could also tell us how you heard about the town hall. We're trying to find the best ways to reach the students. Oh, and look at that, there's a little poll that just popped up. So you can just click on that and let us know how you heard about it. But yeah, questions, if anybody's got anything, feel free to ask while we have their captive attention. Okay. I don't think anybody has any questions. You guys just brilliantly answered everybody's questions in these last 50 minutes. Oh, Renee's got a question.
If there was one thing that you could change about your experience at Columbia, whether it be joining a club or using something like a resource, what would it be and why? Other than like doing study abroad.
Maybe Delvin, you could answer that because Renee or Rachel talked about, but you could also answer it, Rachel, but Delvin.
I would say I would definitely take marketing way more seriously. Take one of those classes, and like heavy marketing.
Yeah, don't sleep on the
Great.
business. Don't sleep on the business classes.
That's great advice. Yeah, we all need that. I encourage my girls who are younger, but get that business degree, because both your parents are art students, and you know? Only gets you so far, but at least we do what we love. That's a really good question, Renee. I see another question from Michael. What are your specific titles? So Rachel, what is your title? And Delvin, what is your title?
I am the regional manager of YKK's Global Marketing Chicago team.
Okay, that's a handful. Yeah. And Delvin, what do you tell people when they ask you what your title is and what you do?
I'm the CEO / head designer.
Got it. Great. That's great. I see a question from Adam.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there was one class you would recommend that we take at our time here in Columbia, what would it be?
One class that you would take at Columbia, what would it be?
Ideally fashion related.
I loved fashion history.
Mm.
I found it just to be really, really interesting. And I think that just history in general to me is really, really engaging. And when you can, know the background of some of the major fashion players, it's good information to know.
I would say, and I might be a little biased with this, but I would say senior thesis is the class that I would highly recommend for anyone pursuing the path of being a designer or working as a seamstress or tailor in an atelier.
That's great. Those are both great. One of the things I kind of want to chime in on that too, because I had at the Schoolyard Institute, it was a very rigorous fashion design program, but we were also had an opportunity for electives outside of that fashion design program. So I took a class in our fiber department and in our photography department. And I was really glad to kind of get those perspectives because they definitely relate to my world in fashion industry. And I certainly didn't go on to be a fiber artist or a photographer, but I'm able to kind of understand a little bit more about that world because I was able to go outside of my department for a class, one of my classes every week. Let's see, we've got multiple pages. So I want to make sure I don't miss anybody that might have a question. Okay. Well, thank you all so much, everybody, all the students, Delvin, Rachel, and Elon, Colby, and Crystal. It's really great to have this. I love feeling connected to all of you through this. And I love all of the real world experiences that you've been able to share with us. It's so great to hear that as a professional and as a student. So I think if there's nothing else, I think we'll end this little Zoom chat, and I guess we'll all get back to work.
Thank you so much for the invitation. This was wonderful.
Thanks, Rachel. Great, thanks, Delvin.
No problem, thank you. Are we ending it?
Yeah, I think we are.
All right,
I mean, we couldn't stay here all day. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna log out.